Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Planterview. Today we will be uh, inviting today Ginger from Building Upward, who got interested in the having the conversation, expanding on the knowledge. So let me go ahead and invite her to our conversation. Take a few moments and let her join in. Hey Ginger, how are you?
Hey, Daniel, good
Good
morning.
morning. Welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here. So excited.
Yes, same here. It's been a few weeks since I did my last podcast. I have done a few other interviews live, and was able to like have further conversations with people one to one. So this is really nice to go back to our original method of this interview via live on IG. So hey, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for joining us. We have here Ginger. Her page is Building Upward, and so we're here to have a conversation about her side of the we could call it the industry, but side of things with plants, which is more related to essences, extracts, right?
Extracts. Yep.
The things utilize those plants to you know create extracts that can help you live a better life, perhaps more healthy lifestyle. So before we start, I just want to first of all let you guys know where I'm at. I'm actually here in Colombia, and this is where I was born, in Bogota, Colombia. This is such a beautiful place that I reminisce every now and then, and being here is just amazing because it's such a natural environment that everybody here loves to have plants, and they've had them for so many years. So you'll get to see all kinds of plants, and I've been posting every now and then some videos, but basically everybody has the most diverse number of plants. We have hibiscus, we have bougainvilleas everywhere around houses. We have succulents, which is super crazy because succulents as little plants, right? Here they've had them for so many years. They became these monstrous, huge plants, and it's crazy to see how nature can evolve, right? So how the growth of a plant can be seen, and it's just amazing. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Tell us. We would like to, of course, help your audience get to know you at a personal level, and this is the primary intent of this podcast. And so let's talk about how you started in this business, why you called your page the name you used, and yeah, let's start with that.
Well, first, I'm going to say before we go any further that it is so gorgeous in Colombia. Every time you post about your plants and how gorgeous and lush it is there, it's such a beautiful tropical environment. Like my grower's heart just goes, oh, I would love to have a
Oh,
garden there. So, really love the places that you visit.
I
Please
know.
keep sharing them.
Of course, I will. I will. I have so many more pictures, and it's crazy because somebody had asked me some time ago, why is it that you like plants so much? Well, having walked through the neighborhood that I lived in, I came to realization that I grew up with plants everywhere. Just even in my building, I live in an apartment building. As you can see, I'm in the fourth floor. I'm at a friend's house. I used to live on the fifth floor, and but just in the neighborhood, they would have plants as part of the decoration. It's just a thing here. It's like for some reason you get to see so many like hibiscus standards. They're colored yellow, orange, red, purple, and it's like what happened like 20, 30 years ago when they built up this community. Did somebody came through and said, hey, let's all just pitch in and put some hibiscus plants because they're everywhere, and they're huge and they have huge flowers. it's crazy. But
That's
yeah,
so
thank you for pointing
beautiful.
that out.
That's so beautiful. And that you we're similar in that, Daniel, because I also grew up around plants. My family has always had a garden of some sort. I myself am a grower. Um, I- the persistence of the hibiscus that you were talking about and how they just keep going, that's really the beauty of plants and kind of what excited me about it. And being involved with plants. So as a child, I was just fascinated with seeds. I had a sandbox. I would plant everything that I could get my hands on. Like there were maple seeds in our backyard, and I would take apple seeds and watermelon seeds and I would plant them. One of the maples that I planted, once it got to a few feet tall, we put it in our yard. It's still there and it's like 3 stories high now. So it's really cool to me the power and the potential that you can find in a seed. So that's kind of where my love of plants came from. It's been with me as long as I can remember. I kind of got away from it and worked in the IT industry for a long time, and now I'm coming back. But those are skills that have helped me in this job, so
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. And I think we
as
always come
far
back, right? We like
e-
there's something about plants
exactly,
that makes us just go back to it, right? It's crazy.
and
Like
and I've kept house plants
no,
exactly
no, go
always
ahead, go ahead.
there. So building upward, I started about 3 years ago now. It branched out. It started as a nutrition and mindset coaching business because I'm really passionate about our health. Your mind and your body, health is wealth in terms of that. When you have your body and it's in good condition, when you have your mind and it's in good condition, that's really one of the measures of wealth is that it's a foundation of what you need to be able to do great things in the rest of your life, right? Um, so building upward, the motto is gain, learn, and grow because every day I want to gain knowledge about something. I want to learn how to use it and I want to grow from that knowledge. So it's been really exciting because, as you may know, anytime you deal with plants, there's always something new to learn. There are so many different plants, you will never, ever know all of them. So that's one of the things that's really important to me about building upward is that I have 2 gardens that I tend, and then I use those plants to bring forth the things that they carry. They can help us, help support our bodies, help support our mental state, help support everything. Even just being outside can help you. Just spend
Yeah.
like the walks that you do when you go outside. How do you feel after you take those walks, right?
So I gotta tell you, the other day, and I recorded on a video, and I'm gonna post it. Basically, we have tall trees, like as tall as the buildings. You can see like they're, I don't know, you can probably see them from the window, but they're
Hmm.
very tall trees. So you'll pass through, and it feels I forget what the word is. In Spanish, in English, I think of it as a forest, un bosque in
Well,
Spanish.
yeah, forest. Hmm.
And so you feel like you're walking through a forest, and you can literally feel the air passing through the between the trees. There's a path, right? And you literally feel like you're in the middle of a breathe of the earth. If that
Hmm.
if I
Absolutely.
make it's
Yeah,
just
so you're kind of
amazing.
describing like forest bathing is what they call it. So you go out into the forest and you feel the air, you feel
It's
the
insane.
presence of the
You feel
trees, right? And
alive. You
it
feel
lifts
everything
your it lifts your
alive.
mood.
It's beautiful. It's just you immerse yourself. If you take the moment and just breathe, you're breathing with the forest, and it's just undescribable. And I was like, no, I need to record this moment because you feel every single leaf making the sounds,
Hmm.
and just nature breathing, and it's just amazing.
It's such a beautiful experience.
You
Yes,
to
I
post
love when I have moments like that, especially when you can get further away. Like you have the city in the background all the time, and there are plants there. I live in a city too, in Atlanta, Georgia, right? But we are also in a forest.
yeah,
So same
yeah,
thing. The city was actually built in the forest, and it's such a neat thing when you can get outside of that and feel the difference that nature can create. Um,
make a huge
yeah.
difference. That's awesome. So, what was the first? How did you started with extracts? What was the first thing that you did that made you think, okay, based on this experience or based on this plant that I was told it can do this,
Mhm.
I'm gonna start doing this more. How did that happen?
So, a long time ago, I became involved and interested in learning about Ayurveda. I don't have any certifications of that at all, but that was kind of my path to utilizing plants as medicine. Was, your food is medicine. The things that you intake has an impact on you. And so when I started gardening again, I realized, what? All of these plants have all of the things that I was growing, the vegetables, the herbs, all of them have their own properties that can give us a different boost in a different kind of way. And so realizing in some ways that the market, even the natural market, the big marketers, some of them put things into their extracts that I was like, I don't want those things in my extract. So I wanted to make a really pure product. And from there, I just started sharing it with my friends. I started sharing it with my family, and then it just grew from there. So it was like, what? There are other people who would benefit from this. Um, so it's still very small. I'm going to shout out to Food Birth Earth because they're actually using some of my tinctures in a healing ceremony this today, and I'm really excited about that. So follow them if you haven't. But the 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 interesting thing about the extracts is that there are a lot of different kinds. So if I can go into kind of what the differences are, because I think that's a lot of the questions that I get is, well, what exactly is different? Because they're all extracts and they're all under the umbrella of extracts, but they're really different.
Mm-hmm.
So tinctures, which is the first one that I made, which is really the most traditional form of extract, is you take the plant material. It can be dry or fresh. I use fresh in all of mine because I grow it, so it's more fun for me to use it fresh. It just comes right out of the garden, and then I clean it and prepare it. And um, you steep the vegetable or the herb in alcohol, and you do that for like 4 to 6 weeks. And then when you finish that, I'm going to show you an example of what this looks like because the color on this. So this is one that I made with marigolds. And you can see that it just pulls like the color right out
Yep.
of it. Like marigolds are these were a beautiful red orange marigold. And so after they had spent their time in here, I taken the plant material out and I haven't bottled it yet, but it's going to go into amber bottles to protect it. So that's what a tincture does. But just that color, isn't that beautiful?
It's amazing. And it's so
It's just like
colorful,
the flower.
rich in its color, and it's not a shade of. It's very like primary color um,
It's
essence.
exactly. It's very true to like the color of the plant itself. Um, so that's a tincture. An elixir is going to be made with alcohol and then a sweetener, honey or glycerin to make it like a little bit more palatable because the tinctures can be very strong, so you don't really need a lot of them. A glycerin is made with vegetable glycerin. So I like those as an alternative. They're good for children because they're safe for children. They don't have the alcohol, and anyone who would avoid alcohol for any reason can use those.
Mm-hmm.
And then an oxymel, to me, they're like the salad dressing. That's how you can get you can get all the plant goodness in your salad dressing. So if you think about it, you may have made oxymel yourself and not even realized it. If you ever make if you ever make salad dressing for yourself, oil, vinegar, and then you put your oregano maybe and a couple other things in there, and then you shake it up and you let it sit, and that's an oxymel. So an oxymel is going to have vinegar. I use apple cider vinegar because it's a little bit less intense than white vinegar, and that's more traditional in an oxymel. And then honey as a sweetener to like give it a little bit of a offset.
Yeah, and honey by itself, it has its own properties that healing properties, and it has its own chemistry behind that helps in so many ways. So it's not, even though it's just a sweetener, it can also help in many other ways. So it
And it's a
regenerates the
preserve. It helps preserve. It helps preserve it
Huh.
as well because honey is a natural preservative. So yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing what nature can do.
It,
That's amazing.
isn't it?
It's crazy,
Yes.
crazy that we can literally help heal ourselves, like you said, to on different pains or just overall aches that we may have, to help regenerate our bodies. I, for example, saw some videos on using, just more on the cosmetic part. You can use some of the hibiscus standard leaves. You gotta do some concoctions and release some of the, I guess, it kind of looks like I don't know, it's like some liquid behind the leaf, and it'll
Hmm.
help you with your if you have curly hair. It'll help it,
Like
get healthy.
unwind a little bit.
Yes, unwind. And you have to do some preparations behind it, but it's crazy, And nowadays we should just be doing our own stuff and not relying so much on the chemicals that they use in different products, whether it is hair, whether it's something you drink, or medicine. So is there any products?
I was gonna
I
say you
mean, many of
just
your
opened
products.
that right up for me. That
Yeah,
was so amazing. Okay, so yes, I have two more little examples that I'm going to show. So these, I also make balms and salves, and they're made with the same ingredients, the same base ingredients, but they're a little bit different formulations. So one is a lemon ginger balm, which my name being Ginger, I really love ginger. It's like a funny thing, but it's just true. I love ginger root. It is such an amazing plant.
I love it.
It
I love
smells,
I love drinking
yeah,
shots, the immunity shots,
I
and
make
let
those
that
every
burn. I'm
day.
like, wow, that's
Yes.
perfect.
Every day, ginger lemon shots with cayenne and a little bit of turmeric, and
That's good.
just it is so good. It's so good for your immune system, and that's one of the things that I love about ginger and lemon both is that they're so good for your immune system. They like you've had this experience when you take it, you can feel it almost immediately. It kind of helps open up your sinus, and it just helps you feel more energized, right?
Totally, totally. It's just amazing. It's a great feeling. I actually just had yesterday. I was at a restaurant with some friends, and I saw that they had an infusion drink, and I thought we were just having lunch, so I needed something cold, right? It ended up being a tea, but it was delicious. It had ginger. It was orange ginger mix and something additional. That was just perfect. Like it felt like a tea, so it helped digest everything down faster after the meal, and it was. I need another one.
Hopefully you will get one soon. But yeah, ginger has so many amazing properties, like you said, for digestion as well. So this balm that I make, it's lemon ginger. I'm gonna put it like so you can actually see it's like so beautifully, perfectly smooth and yellow.
Perfect.
But it's made it's so versatile because it's made with olive oil and beeswax, and then I infuse the oils. I let put what I do is I grind the ginger and lemon up together and I put them in with some lemon balm, which is an herb that's really good for stress. It's also good for your circulation. It's part of the mint family, so it grows readily everywhere. Once you get mint family plant started, it will take over if you let it. So lemon balm and then rosemary, which also is an invigorating herb. So there.
Actually, I was at a house. Sorry to interrupt you
No,
really
it's
quick.
okay.
I was at a house and they had this huge plant of rosemary and they had to put it inside the room. The
Uh
whole
huh.
room was amazing. I was like, I need
The
to
way it
go back when I
smelled.
go back to the States and get myself a few plants and just off. It was just, oh,
That
it was epic.
I think I think that's my favorite thing about having an herb garden is just being able to go out and just touch everything, and then the scent of it is on your fingers, and it it changes your mood in a different kind of way when you feel and you smell and you interact with it in that way. It's like instant aromatherapy, like you were saying when you got into the room with
Yeah,
that rosemary.
it was epic. Sorry, and continue
Yes.
with the bomb.
So yeah, that's all I was really gonna say. I've kind of like, mostly the oils are infused so that it takes on the properties of the different things that it's steeped with, and then I put it together with beeswax and make it into a more usable form. You can carry it in your pocket, you can throw it in your purse, take it with you. It's good for skin. The difference between a balm and a salve. So I was saying they're made with the same things, but a balm has more wax and a salve has more oil. So the salve is better for moisturizing. It's a little bit thinner. You'll kind of feel it on your fingers, a little bit more that oily texture. And then a balm is more wax based, so it helps seal in moisture. So you have to kind of rub it in a little bit harder because it has that wax, but it helps. So you would use anyone who's really into like skincare knows you put the moisturizer first and then you put your balm on top to seal that in. So, but they're the same concept, just different proportions.
Amazing. So let's go back a little bit on the basics of the plants that you use.
Yeah.
what have been some of the plants that you utilize? What are the tips that you can give us to care for those plants? And particularly if you're making products off of them, how do you make it so that they continue to grow? You don't stress the plants as
Hmm.
you use, some of the elements that they carry. And yeah, so how do you take care of them? How do you grow them? Are there any specific nutrients that you give to those plants to help them grow faster or stronger? Yeah, give us a little bit a little bit of your knowledge.
Okay, so the very first, so I believe in a concept of chaotic gardening, which really means um let but
Never heard of that.
I don't have to go there. We all know what chaotic gardening is. No, but like letting whatever is thriving really thrive.
Oh,
So every gardening year is different, right? So some years it depends on the weather. It depends on so many different variables that I, as a person and a gardener, cannot control, right? So I learned over the last couple of years to always plant more than you think you're going to need. I think that's the first thing, because you may have different insects have different cycles, right? So you can have different insects that one year you don't really see them at all, and then the next year you might have a squash bug that comes and takes out like your entire crop of zucchini or whatever. You can't really predict what is going to be that particular year. And then this summer, this past summer, we had way more rain than we normally do. So some of the plants that didn't like those really rainy conditions, they didn't do as well.
and I'm sorry, where
So
do you live?
in
What,
Atlanta, Georgia,
in
in
Georgia? Oh,
the United
sorry.
States. Hmm.
Okay. No, yeah.
And
No,
so,
I figured out which
yeah.
location. For some reason, I thought it was Oregon. I don't know why.
Right.
Atlanta. Okay.
So yeah, we had way rainier conditions than usual. So there were some things that really didn't do well. So that's why part of my product catalog, I always have the same things, but it may be in different amounts based on whatever thrived that year. So this last year, beets were my most amazing thing. So beets are great for cardio. They support your heart. They give you iron. They help your blood and your circulatory system. So in some places, some people use those as a natural um, like a natural boost before they go to work out. They'll use it as like a pre-workout almost. Because
Yeah.
and
Huh.
so when I've had clients come back to me and say, "Oh my goodness, when I took this tincture first, when I took this glycerin first, it helped me with like I could feel it over time. I've really just felt more energetic." So it helps with those levels. And then so as far as what do I do to help them grow better, all of my farm areas are organic, so they are natural. They're not certified organic, but they use organic concepts. So they're doing there's no chemicals added, there's no fertilizers added, but I do have a worm farm and I keep that worm farm. So
Fun.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool because all of my vegetable waste, the things that I don't use, go into that worm farm. It helps, reduce, reuse, and recycle it. And then I take the castings, and those castings can go back into the garden. And so those will be like all filled with the nutrients that they have.
That's super epic. Has that been hard to keep up with, or I mean, just the waste is really what helps them grow and continue to, maybe
So
the vitamins and all this stuff.
the worms themselves, keeping them up, is it hard? No,
Right.
not at all. They're so low maintenance. I taught a class this past summer on how to create your own worm farm. Actually, it came to me. I had an old grill. It was an old metal grill, and it had been exposed to the elements too long. It had kind of rusted apart, and I kept looking at it and going, "What can I do with this?" Because I don't want to just throw it out because that seemed like just I didn't want to contribute to more waste, right? So I kept looking at it, and I went, "I know what I'm gonna do." And so I filled the bottom with screen. Um, when you start a worm farm, basically all you do is you put a layer of food waste in the bottom. So you'll put like eggshells,
Okay.
you'll put your vegetable peels, not citrus, not tomatoes, nothing spicy. Those are the basic ground rules for worms,
Okay.
right? They don't like
Yeah.
spicy
What it comes.
things. Yeah, they don't like spicy things. No tomatoes, no citrus, nothing that's really acidic. You can put coffee grounds in there sometimes and eggshells because they need some grit to help them move around in the soil.
Okay.
Um, And then a layer, I used a layer of like egg cartons, the paper egg cartons, and you can use toilet paper rolls, you can use shredded newspapers, you can use cardboard as like their nesting layer. And the biggest part of that is in the summer, you've got to make sure that it stays moist because it gets really hot here. And so they need a temperature that's more stable. And then in the winter, it doesn't get too cold. This year we had a little bit colder temperatures than usual. It got down to the 20 degrees Fahrenheit for a little while. So you have to kind of cover it up and make sure they're okay. But other than that, you feed them like once a week, and you can just kind of see what they're doing, and they just take care of themselves. So
Yeah, self-sufficient.
they're
That's amazing.
self-sufficient.
That's amazing.
And
There's
you,
some care. It's good to know that there's some care that you need to take care of.
yeah,
But for the most part, they know how to, you know, do their thing.
just like nature, they kind of take care of themselves.
Right.
You have to make sure that you put food in there because it is a closed environment. Feed them like every 2 weeks,
Okay.
at a minimum. But that's also a good thing because if you leave for some reason, would go on vacation, it's not like you have to worry about someone to
Right.
take care of your worms. They're probably going to be okay as long as you're not gone for like a long, long time.
Or they're predators that can, get inside or something. Birds.
Exactly. So yeah, keeping it covered is important for that reason. But I take their castings. So they create these castings and they create like a soil layer within their container that they're in, and then I just take those and I add them to the soil. I just incorporate it into the soil, and it's vermicompost. So it's just nutrient filled already, and so that helps with. The other thing that I do is I utilize companion plantings. So some plants pair better with others. Cucumbers and dill are often good. So they're often things that you'd like to put together anyway, like basil and tomatoes. They're good to plant next to each other.
Huh.
Um, and part of that is you need to make sure that when you're planting your garden, make sure that you know what the requirements are for every plant. So, for example, I have a rue plant, and so rue is used a lot of times for dye. Um, it can be used externally, but it's not something that you really want to take because it's not good for us usually to take internally. You can take a weak tea, but that's about it. Um, I had that planted next to some sage, and the sage just kept looking weak. Like it sprouted and it wasn't great. And I said, you know what? Let me just move this to another place. And all of a sudden, the sage took off and started thriving. So you have to know what plants may interact with other plants. And so if you notice something's not performing the way you thought maybe it would, maybe you have it. Maybe you need to do some research and see if you planted it next to something that actually competes with it.
Yep. I started noticing. So I don't know what happened, but I have an avocado plant, and this avocado plant started growing and growing, and all of a sudden it stopped, and I started noticing another plant coming through, and I don't know what plant it is. I've asked for opinions. I'm gonna post it so you guys can see it later on, and maybe give your opinion. Maybe if you get a chance, give me some suggestions of what
Of
could that be.
course.
But I mean, for sure, the plant is root bound, so I need to
Mm.
replant. I need to separate those two plants because I know for sure the other plant grew very very much as tall as the other one. Um, but it's somebody said like it was a ficus. It could have been a ficus some sort. Um, but yeah, I think it's taking a lot of the energy from the other one from to continue to grow. It's still healthy, the original avocado plant, but I definitely have to make some separation from there, to allow for each one to grow, separately, have its the more room, because it's already root bound, and it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to separate them, one by one. The roots, not to break so many. If I have to, I might have to, cut some, and for the better of the both.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's been fun though. It's been fun to have.
Well, I can't help you much with an avocado. My story about avocados. So I sprouted one from seed, and it took about 10 months for it to sprout. And I was so excited when it finally came up. I had sprouted it in water, and then I put it into a soil in a container, and I had it outside for the summer, and it was going so great. It had grown probably 2 feet tall, And one night the temperature dipped down lower than I thought it would, and the whole thing died because it got too cold.
Oh,
So
oh man, yeah, it's
sometimes
harder
it's like that.
when it gets colder for sure. I mean I live in Florida in Miami, so the weather is just perfect
Yeah.
for the most. There's some cold days, but it doesn't and not enough to kill the plants or kill them too much.
Mhm. I think that's probably one of the challenges here too is that we have such temperature extremes, and they, one afternoon it can be like 70 degrees Fahrenheit and the next day it's like 30.
Hmm.
And that's the period that we're in right now. We joke about it being, fake spring because we're still too early for it to not be winter, but it feels pretty
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah, and I was gonna actually ask you about like challenges that you've run through. So that's one of them. Is there any other
that's one of them.
challenges that you've had maybe with the plants? Like you said, maybe mixing plants and getting them too close together.
Hmm.
That's another challenge, and you've been able to realize, and in time enough to make changes. Is there any other challenges or opportunities that you've seen in enhancing your methods of growing those plants?
I think timing is often one of the bigger challenges. Just knowing, has the last frost date really passed? Are we due to have a heavy freeze? Because the weather is very unpredictable. So you you sometimes have to roll the dice a little bit of, can I cover things? Because covering things to protect them from cold can take up a lot of time, but the result of not covering them is a lot worse. So
Yeah, totally.
you have just, and sometimes life gets in the way, and you realize, oh, I can't get out there tonight when there's suddenly a temperature drop that's unexpected. And so that can be a challenge. The other thing can be, we have a lot of wildlife here. And even though it's a city, like I said, it's in a forest, and so we have a lot of different wildlife. Like, I've seen possums, I've seen rabbits, I've seen all manner of different animals that are out and about. Trying to get a bite of whatever I had. My first strawberry plants, I think a chipmunk ate the first strawberry for me.
Oh my
So,
god.
so
So
that's one. I know. I was just like, who did that? Who did that?
yeah, that can be a challenge for sure. Like keeping them away from it or covering it enough so that they don't destroy the environment that you created and the plant, of course.
And so that goes back to what I was saying about, you know, um, plant more than you think you're going to need because you never know what's going to happen. And any healthy farmer or garden is part of its environment. If you don't have things eating it, then it's not part of the environment.
Right.
So it's a healthy and a good thing when it happens, but it's still hard to see it when you come back and you're like, oh, this insect like ate all of these leaves, or this small animal ate my tomato or my eggplant or my strawberry.
Uh, yeah, that's gonna be tough. Um, and when it comes to maybe plant, sicknesses or plant, I don't know what the right word is, but I cannot
Like
think of
plant
it right now. But
disease.
like
Hmm.
yes, how do you control it? Are there any natural elements that you can use that you've used in order to keep those away?
So a lot of what plant disease is based on is that if you make sure that your plant is healthy in the first place, it'll be more, just like us, it'll be more resistant to other diseases. So I approach it more from proactively of making sure that the plant has what it needs. So if it's a plant that needs an alkaline soil, make sure that it's planted in that way. If it's a plant that needs an acidic soil, make sure that it has that. Pairing plants together that naturally go well together helps them, because some plants will fix nitrogen, which will help the plants next to them. And just utilizing the natural properties of those plants when you're planting them, and then making sure that they get the water that they need, that they get the sunlight that they need, because most of the things that I grow, they need at least 8 hours of sunlight. But because in the summer months of July and August, it gets so hot, you can bend that rule a little bit. So it's gardening and farming is not always an absolute. Like, you can play with the rules a little bit to figure out what works the best where you are.
Right. And have you had any particular scenario where you've used plants in combination with another one that has helped in that situation, or like what is it called? The little mites. The have you had to deal
Yeah.
with that, and how? how have you dealt with that? Maybe if you have any example.
So most of my insect control, pest control has been finding observing and finding it as soon as you start to see it, because really insect populations multiply so quickly because their lifespans are really short. So I've had luck with different forms of natural pest control. I've utilized a spray of water and mint essence and a little bit of just of alcohol, just a tiny bit of alcohol mixed together, just to kind of give it some staying powder. You can use insecticidal soaps, so really just create like dish soap and water and a little bit of oil, and that's a natural insecticidal soap, and so that will help with things like scale, things that may be more like leaf miners and things of that nature that would suck the juices out of your plant. It makes it an oily surface that they can't grip onto and they don't like it as much. So you
Okay.
can do different things like that, but mostly there was a moment this summer where squash bugs came out and I saw all the caterpillars, and they're a bright yellow caterpillar. If you've never seen them, they're bright yellow and they have these black spikes that come out of them, but they're really easy to pull off. And I just pulled them all off and collected them and then just took them to another location where they weren't going to hurt anything. So just removing them sometimes is all you need
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah,
Good to know. Well, I think we're almost about 40 minutes into the interview.
excellent.
I don't know if you want to have any last comments, any if you want to invite anybody to follow you, to purchase your products. Take a moment to invite anybody that's watching this video or that will watch this video later on. We're gonna post it and I'm gonna tag you so we can collaborate and this video remain in your feed as well. So that way people can get to know you at a personal level. So go for it. This is your
Excellent.
space.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. Really, was so excited to do this with you. It's been an outstanding experience. Really appreciate you taking the time to just talk about all of these wonderful
Thank
things with me.
you.
So,
Thank you for taking the time and as well as sharing your knowledge.
yeah,
This is the intent, guys, is to be able to help others get to and broaden their wealth of knowledge. So
yes.
yes, please continue.
Yes. So, as you said, my name is Ginger LaRue. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. My page is Building Upward. Please follow, join along in our gardening adventure. You can watch all the things that I talk about, our worm farm, our insect troubles, our starting seeds, and watching everything grow. I talk about our different products that we make and how we make them, and just other random things that might be helpful in your journey throughout, the garden and in health and mindset as well. Our website is www.buildingupwardllc.com, and those links are in my bio as well. So check out our plant-based products, check out our coaching, check out anything that we may offer. I would love to interact with all of you and help you. So thanks.
Listen, thank you, Ginger. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for having the opportunity to have a conversation, let your audience get to know you again, and helping others get to know you as well. So let's stay in touch. Let's hopefully
Yes,
do
let's
another one
do.
of these more focused on specific topics, perhaps, or we could just open it again to have a further conversation on other topics. So, hey, thanks again for your time.
I
Hope
look
you have
forward
an
to it.
amazing
Thanks a
day.
lot. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.